to go back again. I'm sorry.
I'll sustain an objection. I will sustain that objection.
Thank you. Your testimony here today is that you didn't know that the unidentified male DNA was not included in the May 12th report because you have never read the report. You never read the report between May 12th when you received it and December 13th, correct?
I never read the report between May the 12th. I don't know to what extent I read it on May the 12th. I never read it between May the 12th and December the 13th. Yes, sir, that's correct.
And the issue of your discussions with Dr. Meehan and the test results came up on numerous subsequent occasions in that case, did they not?
There were certainly questions that were asked, although some of them I think were about the facts, whether to discuss the facts of the case with them or something like that. But yes, the issue did come up on other occasions.
It came up at a hearing on May 18th.
Yes, sir, that was the first time.
It came up again on a hearing on June 22nd.
If you say so.
And it came up again on a hearing on September 22nd.
Again, if that's what it shows, then that's I don't dispute that.
Well, let's look specifically then.
All right.
At each one of, do you recall at each one of those, before each one of those hearings, you were served with a specific discovery request asking about DNA security and conversations that you had with Dr. Meehan?
I don't recall that specifically, but if that's in here, then I would. It may very well be true. I just don't know that I recall that I was specifically served with something part of each of those hearings.
All right. Look at Exhibit 218 in the notebook.
Yes, sir. This appears to have been filed after the May 18th hearing. No, I'm sorry. Yes, May 26th. This was filed after that hearing.
I'm sorry, if you look at Exhibit 212. Come on. So that is a motion from Clerk Osborne.
Yes, sir.
And that was served on you on April 19th, 2006, right? Last page.
Signed on April the 19th. I can't really see the... Oh, yes, sir.
Certificate of service.
Yes, sir.
And this is a discovery request from Mr. Seligman's attorney.
Yes, sir, it is.
And if you look at page 2, you see that?
Yes, sir, I see page 2.
Paragraph 6.
Yes, sir.
And it asks specifically for test results, including but not limited to DNA analysis.
Yes, sir, it does.
And then if you go over on the next page on paragraph 16, it specifically asks for, pursuant to Brady and other reports, exculpatory type information.
Yes, sir.
And this, you received this discovery motion either shortly before or right around the time of your second meeting with Dr. Meehan, correct? On April 21st.
Assuming, as I said earlier, that that was in fact the second meeting, which I believe it most likely was, that would be correct, sir.
And that was the meeting at which Dr. Meehan told you about the unidentified male DNA that did not match any of the lacrosse players.
I don't believe that's the case. My recollection is that that was something that was done at the first meeting I had with him. That's one of the things that I referred to in my answer when I said I only recalled having made 2 meetings or having had 2 meetings with Dr. Meehan. And so in my answer, I talked about what happened at the first meeting and the second meeting in the belief that there had been 2. I now think it's likely that there were in fact 3 meetings. But I cannot distinguish between exactly what happened at each meeting, but I do believe that that conversation took place prior to the fingernails having been delivered to the lab. Having seen, and that would have made it occur at the April 10th meeting, which would have been the actual first meeting if I had 3, but the April 21st meeting would have been the first meeting if I had 2, and that's why I refer to that the way I do in my answer.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Brock, let me
Yes.
just ask one question, because this occurred to me before. If this helps refresh your recollection, Mr. Nifong, do you recall whether you met with Dr. Meehan prior to the indictments of Mr. Finnerty and Seligman?
No, sir, I really don't. I don't specifically recall that.
You don't recall one way or the other?
No, sir, I don't. I wish I did, but I just don't.
All right.
I believe that with everybody testifying that there were 3 meetings, I believe there must have been 3. I just don't have any specific recollection of that meeting. I'm not denying that it took place or that I was there. I just can't specifically recall it.
Okay. All right. Continue, Mr. Brock.
Prior to hearing the testimony here at this hearing, though, you have consistently said you were not at the April 10th meeting.
I believe that my first response said that there were 2 meetings, and my second response, or my follow-up response, acknowledged that I was aware that other people said there were 3 meetings, but that I could only recall 2.
Okay.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And in your grievance response, the initial one, you set forth how all these matters about the unidentified DNA were discussed at the April 21st meeting.
Yes, sir, because that I believe to be the first meeting we had. Those were discussed at the first meeting that I had with Dr. Meehan.
So you're now saying that you think that they were in fact discussed. You found out about this unidentified male DNA not matching any of the lacrosse players before anybody was indicted.
I believe that I found out about it at the first meeting. Assuming the first meeting did in fact take place on April the 10th, that would be correct. Yes, sir, I believe that's correct.
So by the time you had gotten this April 19th response that we were just looking at, you had already been told specifically that there was unidentified male DNA not matching the players.
Yes, sir, and I believe that was likely the case.
Okay. And this request specifically asked for exculpatory information and DNA results.
There's no question it did. And I have said all along they were entitled to that information. Haven't changed my mind on that.
And within a few days after that, you got another request from Mr. Seligman also asking for DNA results and exculpatory information.
Probably, I don't recall the
You'll look at
specific
Exhibit 215A, please.
Yes, sir, I see that.
And if you look at page 2, that is dated April 28th, 2006.
Actually, it indicates it was served to me on the 26th. It was filed on the 28th.
All right. So you got this on April 26th.
It would appear, yes, sir.
And if you go on page 2, that specifically asks for materials under Brady and specifically 3.8 of the North Carolina Rules of Professional Conduct. See that?
I'm sorry,
Paragraph 4, page 2.
Yes, sir.
And that asks for information you see under Brady and Rule 3.8 of the North Carolina Rules of Professional Conduct, including but limited to evidence tending to negate the defendant's guilt.
Yes, sir.
And certainly by that point, you had received information from Dr. Meehan discussing these, or disclosing the results of these tests that had unidentified male DNA.
There's no question, sir.
And that would have been within about 4 or 5 days of the second meeting you had with Dr. Meehan on the 21st.
Yes, sir. That's when this would have been served. Yes, sir.
And so you were receiving these discovery requests asking for exculpatory information and information covered by 3.8 contemporaneously with when you were meeting with Dr. Meehan and finding out about these unidentified male DNA that didn't match any lacrosse players, correct?
Well, yes, sir, that's true. But my response to a discovery request